Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of the Four Quarters podcast powered by Four Quarters Media. I'm your host, Tyler Bennett, with you once again. It's another Thursday, which means it's another U Sports focused episode of the podcast. It's a two-part episode this week. Part number one, the reason why you're here right now, is headlined by Mount Royal women's basketball head coach Robyn Fleckenstein. And part number two, which will follow right after this, hopefully you follow along with it, you will hear from St. Mary's forward Q Gibson. Both fantastic chats. We put the spotlight on the Mount Royal Cougars in part one, and we really shone a light on the St. Mary's Huskies and the AUS as a whole in part number two with Q Gibson. But before we jump into part one with Robyn, bit of a disclaimer at the start. Don't hold it against me. I'm sorry in advance. This was recorded before the Canada West announced that they were officially suspending fall sports. So basketball will not start until at least January 2021 for league play. We did record this before that news broke. So there is a conversation around COVID-19 and what it could do to a season. Some of it may be dated. Some of it may be bang on to what we talked about and what news broke. But if anything is a bit off, don't hold it against us, please. I apologize now for the both of us. But with that being said, a lot of light was put on what Robyn was able to do in year one with the Cougars, the challenges that came with it, moving over from Augustana in the ACAC, taking over a Mount Royal program, helping guide them to contending for a playoff spot down the road. They did only finish with 5 wins, but the way they're progressing bodes well for the future, and they're trending in that right direction. Playing competitive games down the stretch is what you want to be. That's the position you want to be in. They were in that position. And unfortunately, they faltered a bit down the stretch, lost their last 7 to play themselves out of a playoff spot, but they gained that experience nonetheless. So Robyn and I really wanted to put the light on Mount Royal, what they've been able to accomplish, the challenges that came with the season, the transition year for both Robyn and her team and their players, new coach, new system, what have you. So it was really great to hear kind of how they overcame that. Got a few good stories along the way as well that I'll let Robyn tell those. I'm not going to give any teasers away. So with that in mind, sounds like a perfect time to jump right in. This is part one of episode 4 of the Four Quarters podcast powered by Four Quarters Media with Mount Royal Cougars women's basketball head coach Robyn Fleckenstein. Enjoy. All right, so I'm now thrilled to be joined by Mount Royal women's basketball head coach Robyn Fleckenstein. Robyn, first off, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. I know it's a bit earlier in the morning for you. How are things on your end?
Oh, Calgary is beautiful, especially at 9 a.m., so no problems here.
That's true. It's I think that whole area is nice, especially in the morning. How have you guys been keeping busy with COVID and everything else before we jump into the basketball side of things? What are you guys doing to just keep busy, if you will?
I'm a big summer, spring sports person, and then obviously being in Calgary, we're real close to the mountains, so I've been working out lots, which usually I don't actually get to say. Playing a little tennis with a couple of friends, and then my boyfriend and I have been hiking in the Canmore, Kananaskis area, which it's really phenomenal. So it's pretty nice. It's like the first time I've ever taken a lot of time for me to experience that.
I think there's a lot of people in that boat that are now realizing what's important and take time for yourself and see what else is out there, like Canmore and whatever's around. Like I lived in Canmore for a year that we talked about before, and I didn't hike a single mountain. And we had a kid come out from Quebec who did 30 summits in 60 days, something like that.
That's amazing.
And
that's amazing.
Broke his foot on one and kept going anyways. And then there's me just look at a hill and I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm okay on the ground. It's
not for everybody.
I mean, I can get the views off of Google. I know what it looks like coming down. Yeah. I guess it's the journey. I guess people say it's the best part of it, but okay.
Yeah, we forced. Let's not say forced. We took the athletes last year on a
Okay.
backpacking trip in
Hmm.
Kananaskis, so that's just south of Canmore there,
Yep.
and it was all like, what do you call it? Like off the grid. So there was
Hmm.
no cell phone service. They all had like to bring in their tents and their beds and everything we were
Gee.
using for that whole night. We
Hmm.
packed in all their food, and it was definitely an experience because some of them were into it. They were like, this is the coolest, this is the
Yep.
greatest, we've never done anything like this before. And then other ones are like, there's a bug, like this is wrong, we need to go back. So it was
Oh.
a very cool experience, and I think
Hmm.
in a way, some learning that I don't know that they would have all done it before. Like
Oh.
sometimes you just need someone to take your hand, and so when your coach says, hey, we're all going into the mountains, and they're like, okay, this is
Okay.
happening, Robyn said it, like, so.
You get both ends of the spectrum. You get the some like me, city kid through and through, wouldn't be able to tell you more than like two bugs outside of an ant and a spider. Then you get the
Oh,
other
just
end
named
that
you.
are right into it and they've got everything that you need and they're like
Yeah,
miles ahead of everybody else. They don't care. They just want to get there. It's
yeah,
good bonding, I think, to bring those city, not so much hikers, up to
yeah,
speed with the hiking crew, if you will, the outdoorsy folk.
yeah,
It shows you how to teaches you how to survive and work together. I think that's what I needed was somebody to say, we're doing
yeah,
this. You don't have a choice. Let's go.
yeah. It
But
was a blast,
they gave me
honestly.
my choice and I didn't go anytime. And
You're like, nah, I'm
they
not
would
going
leave at
alone.
like 4 a.m., 5
Oh
a.m.,
yeah, no.
sunrise. Nah, I'm okay. I'll sleep.
Still sleeping.
I'm a nice take it easy in the morning. Not gonna hike at 3 a.m. and come back and work at 1. No,
That's fair.
I'm not like that. I need to preserve energy. My joints aren't that way anymore.
I've heard that from athletes too. That
It's
seems to be a line.
it. I haven't played sports in how long, but I'm still using it to this day. My joints
Yep.
are nowhere where they should be for my age.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Oh,
push them
don't
any
worry.
further than I need to.
I feel you. I got 2 ACL reconstructions, so
No,
I'm
I
an
don't
old
have that.
lady.
I haven't had anything torn, just broken.
Oh, you're lucky.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I can only imagine how bad they would be if anything else
If you
happened.
don't move them, it's worse.
That's true.
Seriously, like so much worse. So
I have a desk job. I don't move much. And work from
that's
home
the
is your
danger.
work from home. You're confined to your space, and when you live in an
Hmm.
apartment, there's not much room to run or walk or stretch.
Yeah, I hear you.
Tough. Looking at this year for you guys, first year at Mount Royal, you guys finished 5-15, so you were in contention for playoffs down the stretch, which I think is a good spot to be where the program has been in the past. Stumbled a bit, lost your last 7 to kind of almost play yourself out a bit.
Hmm.
But I mean, being in contention down the stretch, I think that's good start for year 1. Like I said, where the program's been in past years. What was the biggest takeaway for you on the season?
Um, I think there's a lot of learning going on all the time, especially when you're young in this profession.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was one of the things, right? Every time you end up in a new league,
Mm-hmm.
you spend a lot of time just understanding how the dynamics of everything work.
Mm-hmm.
So that was for sure a factor. Like I had been in the ACAC, we played 24 games, but you play everybody 4 times. That's a way different
Yeah.
feel than playing 20 games against 10 opponents. So
Yeah.
there was that factor. I think we had a lot of normal mental hurdles that come along with a new coach.
Mm-hmm.
So that just being like, hey, I stepped in and like all of a sudden our offense was changed, our defense was changed, like everything we
Mm-hmm.
were doing was different from before. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's totally understandable. Like I'm very proud of the athletes for achieving 5-15. Like we were pretty excited about that. I think
Mm-hmm.
that in itself was its own little mini hurdle. And
Yep.
so the belief of understanding that maybe we can win a few games and like
Mm-hmm.
we're not really, it's not impossible for us to compete. We just need to make sure that we're actually putting our best product on the floor and
Mm-hmm.
finding consistency. And I would say like to comment on the seven game stagger there to end the year. Like,
sorry to bring that
we
back
had some.
up.
No, it's good. Like, I've watched a lot of video. Trust me, I
Yeah.
feel that pain
Mm-hmm.
over and over. But it's part of the learning process.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think we had some phenomenal opponents in our second semester that really held us to task and made us have to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And we rose, but not high enough. Like, but just proud of compete against some opponents. And like I look back and you can only reflect and learn. So that's what I'm just trying to do, and not carry forward frustration. And I don't know, like every time you step on the floor, if you get a little better, that's a win to me. So.
Oh, and you look at the start of the year too, like the second weekend you guys played Regina, who had made how many back-to-back nationals appearances, and you split the weekend. In the second weekend of the year with a new coach, I think that's a sign right there that the girls are going to compete, and that's a milestone in itself, I think, to beat a team that's been at nationals and in your second weekend of the regular season.
To be fair, I think like we got Regina on a down year, like Dave Taylor would tell you that in a heartbeat. But I would also say that I was just happy to compete with them, and then to get a win. Like, always fun, always way more exciting. And it was really important, I think, our first semester to go 3-5 and like feel like it wasn't an impossibility. So that was a big thing for us.
What was is there one thing that was like the biggest challenge for you shifting from the ACAC to U Sports? Because you had been at U Sports before, you played CIS at Acadia, and then you had coached with Alberta as an assistant coach as well. Was there one big challenge or adjustment switching gears back from the ACAC to U Sports?
I would say there's a real investment of coach time at the U Sport level that maybe isn't always there in the ACAC. So it felt like there wasn't a weekend where we were going to just get a sweep, and it was going to be this like walk in the park, no problem. Yeah. And I don't know that I always, like, honestly, the coaches in the ACAC are good coaches, but it just felt like at the U Sports level, there was that like next level of education, of understanding, of commitment to what we're doing. And so that was a big shift for me. I think the schedule still, like, I've had conversations with my university coach, Bev Greenlaw, about this, like every schedule, every year, every time there's a change in that sort of format, like you have to relearn how to train your kids to not phase out by the end of the year. Like, I would say one big piece of learning is we get to mid-February and the athletes are just zonked, right? Like they're exhausted. Like we're not there yet. When I was at U of A, I was really fortunate to be in a program where we went to nationals 3 years in a row, right? Like that's a totally different feel and preparedness than what we had this year. So I don't know. I think the cool thing is I was really fortunate to land a head coaching job in the ACAC and get kind of take my lumps there. And I'm for sure taking lumps now. Trust me, it's not going away. But I just think it was a really great starting point for me. And like, you don't realize as an assistant all the things that a head coach maybe deals with in the span of a day. And so
that's true.
To jump into that in a place where I felt like I was really supported. I have had a phenomenal athletic director in Greg Ryan at Augustana, and I had some really great colleagues, one being the men's basketball coach, Dave Drabiak. So I felt like there was always someone to like ask a question and sort things out. So I think that was another big help. But yeah, the shift is weird. It's a different league. It's a different level.
Talent-wise, ACAC or CCAA as a whole to U Sports, do you see any glaring differences? I think obviously they're a bit of a higher caliber, you could say, with U Sports. I think across the board, don't think that's any hidden secret. But the CCAA has their talented players themselves, their gems that stand out and can compete at U Sports level. Is there any glaring similarities or differences between the two that you've noticed now that you've been a head coach at both levels?
Yeah, I would say like obviously coming from the East Coast and growing up, it was like CIS versus CCAA out there, and I always saw a huge discrepancy. But now to be in Alberta, I would say there's less of a discrepancy between the best ACAC teams and the lower level U Sports teams.
Okay.
Like, it's definitely way more competitive. Now, that being said, my last year in the ACAC, Olds won nationals, right? And like, I think this year Lakeland would have had a really good look at it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess reflecting, it's more about individual athletes at the CCAA level, whereas like U Sports, like all your athletes are good and they have to play together to find a way to get W's. So that would be the biggest discrepancy, is that there's more of the high caliber athletes at U Sports. Not that there aren't any in the CCAA. It's just a question of how many you have on each team. And then when you have like 4 or 5, you're really talking about a team that's going to contend for your regional title and then the national one, I think, as well. But we had, at Augustana, we had 2 athletes transfer out my second year who are both now, actually, I think they both started for the teams they're with now. Jess Henney with Lethbridge, and then Emma Van Bernassen at UNBC. So, I mean, it shows you that maybe the jump isn't as high as people think, but it's more just like an individual athlete ability thing.
Yeah, it seems like the individual athletes at the CCAA level are more like fewer and far between when you compare it to U Sports. Like
it's a bigger gap.
Like you said, your team, like U Sports, everybody's an athlete. Everybody's a good athlete, strong athlete. CCAA, you're going to have 2 or 3. And if you get a team like Olds that has 3, 4, 5 when they won nationals, it puts them in a tier that nobody can really match. And that team they were so strong. Brittany Tebow, I can't say anything that hasn't already been said about her.
Yeah.
And for that team, like, they had athletes. And
but even if you look at like that year, Keanu went as well, and they had
Moyen.
Mo, and and they competed very well as well. So, you know, you have a couple kids and a solid big. It's funny. Everybody just needs a solid big.
That's what it seems like.
It's a real problem.
The CCAA, if you have a solid big, you're in a tier on your own.
I would say, like, even U Sports, that's a real thing. Like, if you watch the women's final this year with Brock, like their big girl, she could really play. Like, she could play wherever she caught the ball, and I think that was a real factor in them getting that far.
Yeah, I think just Saskatchewan had just maybe 1 or 2 more bigs than they had, and when Brock went small, they just couldn't match up size-wise. But
they have the most phenomenal athletes. There's no question.
That's true. That's true. I feel bad for Mo too at Keanu. She's so strong. She's so good, but playing the same position as Brittany kind of gets overshadowed a bit. I feel like any other league, she would be an absolute star, and she is in the ACAC. I think she's overshadowed by Brittany a bit, and not to discredit Brittany, but puts Mo in a tough position because she's so strong.
Yeah,
she's so strong.
I mean, we had spent a lot of time playing, obviously, against Keanu and not so much against Olds, but I think they both have positives, right? Like, they're both phenomenal athletes and players.
And that's the thing. Like, you look around the CCAA and U Sports as a whole. We'll get into it a little bit later on. Everything's so overlooked. Nobody really pays much attention until nationals, and then even then, it's hit and miss. Like, you had the CBC broadcast issues this year with wrong name pronunciations, and it makes your skin crawl, and you just gotta put it on mute and do it yourself. But for you, before we get into more about what's ahead for Mount Royal, what was it that got you into coaching in the first place? Like, when did you realize that, okay, I want to be a coach?
I think that as a young athlete, it always seemed like the next step.
Mm-hmm.
I was really fortunate to play in high school for two great coaches.
Mm-hmm.
One being my stepdad, so he
Okay.
was a huge influence on me, and
Mm-hmm.
he was a coach. Like he coached at Acadia, he coached the Windjammers way back in the day in
Okay.
Halifax.
Yep.
So he I think kind of spurred me to believe that was the next step for me. But
Mm-hmm.
as a young individual, I think it always seemed like something you'd do later. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, so I'll teach for a little bit, and then
Mm-hmm.
like maybe 40, 45,
Yeah.
I'll apply for some jobs
Mm-hmm.
and maybe, maybe jump in. But
Yeah.
I definitely saw it as something that I wanted to do. And then after spending my time with Scott at Alberta,
Mm-hmm.
I decided that that was something that I was going to invest a little bit of like more time into. So
Mm-hmm.
I got into the master's program at Vic,
Mm-hmm.
master's in coaching there,
Okay.
and did that for 2 summers. But the funny thing is, like my first summer at Vic, Kelly Lyons, who had played for us at U of A
Mm-hmm.
and was coaching at Augustana at the time, gave me a call, and she was like, "Hey, like my life is taking me another direction. Like, would you be interested in applying for this job?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I don't know, sure, I
Sure.
don't,
Why not?
yeah." And honestly, at the time, didn't know as much about the ACAC as I learned, obviously. And
Mm-hmm.
I know I asked like a few people who I see as mentors, and they were like, "I don't know, like it sounds like a good opportunity." And
Yeah.
so before the summer ended, like I had the job.
Oh, well, yes,
um,
that works. I mean, if
so
the opportunity
yeah,
presents itself, take a shot. And
totally.
now
Yeah.
here we are, three
Yep.
years later and entering year
Yep.
2 at Mount Royal.
Yeah.
And
Very
you're not
cool.
anywhere close to 45 yet.
Not
So
yet.
you're
No,
way ahead of your
31.
plan. You're way ahead of your plan at this point.
Yeah, pretty excited. Like I feel very grateful
Mm-hmm.
and honored to even get to do what I get to do. So it's a cool experience.
It's one of the things I like, get a lot from coaches, just the ability to work with the athletes. And yeah, you're coaching basketball and it's what you want to do, but the impact that people have on the athletes, you hear that, and everybody's just
Yeah.
grateful for the position they're in to impact lives and have
Oh, and they
fun doing
impact
what you
me.
do. Yep.
They teach me all the time, and they
Mm-hmm.
humble me, and they push me. And I just think like we do as coaches get to obviously impact our athletes,
Mm-hmm.
but I just can't even explain how much they push me and they
Mm-hmm.
hold me accountable. And I just think it's the
I think
coolest job.
that's one of the sides too that nobody really looks at is like, yeah, they see the coaches and they're supposed to impact the athletes, but they don't look at behind the scenes how much they impact you, how much they teach you about anything. Could be
Hmm.
basketball, could be anything, could be TikTok, could be whatever they can impact your life with. And
Yes, a
that
lot of
impact, it
TikTok
goes
and
to it.
dancing that I
I
had no idea about.
I've seen your like the teams doing their minute to win it contests
Yeah.
online. Have you done those yet? Have you taken part?
Honestly, I do them, but I'm
Okay.
so bad. So I never like no one gets to see my videos,
Okay. I haven't
but
seen it in
then
the
when
honorable mentions yet. It hasn't come
no,
up
no,
yet.
no. Oh no, no.
Uh-oh.
I don't need that. I'm not an honorable mention at all.
I looked at
Um,
some of them. I would be absolutely terrible. Like I would not be able to get a card in a bucket.
no,
The
so random.
the
Yeah,
M and M's or the Smarties would be all over the floor. Like they
yeah.
would not make it from one plate to the next. And some of the girls, it was so easy. Like
Oh,
Sierra
they're
had like
crazy.
45 cards in a bucket in a minute. Like,
Yep.
excuse me?
Jamie
No.
Lawler was moving a ton of Smartie or Skittles in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
She was using a bendy straw, so I don't know if there were some like rules being
Oh,
broken there, but
have to
yeah,
have a.
she's a clever one. Like there were no like it wasn't written down that you couldn't use a bendy straw, so I think that was like
Mm.
she was just like moving the straw anyway.
I think
Genius.
the stacking of the cups would be the hardest. Like I'm not coordinated with both hands to get them up and down at one time. I
It's
don't think that
good
would.
ambidextrous work.
Oh, some of them were going quick, and then some of them you can just see the face, like the frustration. Then they get to
Oh
the
yeah,
top, and it just falls over, and then they just quit. And
severe
that's
concentration.
that's me and climbing a mountain. You just don't start, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, fair.
Looking ahead to this year for you guys, you have 6 recruits already on the board.
I think
According
we're
to
at
Martin
7 now.
Timmerman's U Sports
Okay.
hoops list, there's 6 on there. There could be a 7th that I don't know about. Um,
I'm gonna do the math in my head.
okay. Got Isabella Golden,
Yes.
Jenna Rinsky,
Yes.
Madison Stata Luzentalis. That's right.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
nailed it. Abby
Nice.
Wilkinson,
Yep.
Sierra Peck, and Megan Willinghurst.
Yep. And there's one more transfer from the ACAC.
Okay.
Rachel Ashevsky will be joining us.
Oh, from State. Okay.
Yes.
So I didn't have that one. So 7. Okay, we got
There you
7.
go. Yeah. I was
Um,
gonna say I've been saying 7 in my head, so I don't know if I've just gone crazy, which is totally possible.
hey, I'll take full
COVID.
COVID. Yes, we'll blame it on COVID and everything else that's going on. What excites you most about the future of the Cougars and especially the class you guys have coming in with now 7 talents coming in? Correct myself.
Yeah, it's a lot of kids, isn't
It's
it?
a lot. Yes.
I think there's one big thing I've learned in the last 3 years, which is like, the season is long, right? It's long and it's really taxing on bodies. And I've now had 3 years of post-secondary where at some point in January, February, I am practicing. And so I've kind of decided that needs to stop. Not because I want to, not because I still got hoop dreams.
Yeah. Hey, you
but
gotta pursue them as long as you can. You never know who's going to be watching.
Yeah, player coach. Yeah.
Yep.
No, because of the injury factor, right? Like there's wear and tear, there's concussions, there's always something that happens come that time of year. So I think the big emphasis with our big recruiting class this year is that we're trying to prep to make sure that that we're ready for a later season than I think they were last year. So that was a big emphasis for me. Yeah, I think the athletes that we're bringing in, they fill a lot of gaps for us. We've obviously lost Charity Marlatt at the 5, so that was the big emphasis to bring Rachel, Sierra, and Megan. They all play that 4 or 5 position, and so we're trying to really define what we want that to look like for us. And then at the 1, like we have Jenna Rinsky, who I think is going to jump in and be a good fill for that spot for sure. And then Bella Golden, she is an ACL as of October, but had her surgery in February. So we're hoping to have her for, I think, probably the 21 start year.
Okay. I got to ask, how do you get somebody from Louisville, Kentucky out to Calgary? How did that come to fruition without giving too much of your recruiting secrets away?
Ken King.
Jeez.
He was doing a lot of that international search for us, and Megan seemed really interested in Canada. And when she and her mom came up for a visit, it was a snowstorm.
Oh, okay.
But
a tough sell right off the start.
Her. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I was like, oh, we're gonna lose her for sure. But it was so great. They were here and they were like, just so you know, we love Canada. We really love Canada, and there's some direct flights. So that was a huge piece, and yeah, I think she went home and just had a really great experience, and that's what she wanted. So we were excited when she picked us.
I guess the snow is seeing Canada in all its glory. It's probably filled every stereotype that they had ever heard about Canada. Of course, you fly in, snowstorm. And like some of the snowstorms in Calgary get cold, and like it's heavy. It's heavy snow.
Yeah.
I remember when I lived out there the first day, and they said it was like minus 40. I didn't believe it for a second. So I lived across the street from where I worked, so I'd walk outside and I'm like, this is fine. And, had to stop and I just hoodie on, spring jacket, Ontario, thinking, I'm fine, naive to it all. Hit you like a wall, an absolute wall.
Man, I don't know. Minus 40 is, I'm from Nova Scotia, and our hurricane weather is just awful. Like if there's a hurricane at home, you're literally going to get blown over. It doesn't matter how many layers you're wearing. It's going to go through you into your soul and just freeze you. And I don't know, like -40 in Edmonton and Calgary, it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know. You put on a jacket. You can go outside. There's no wind. Like
that's
there's no,
true.
it's not.
Yeah.
So I just always felt like I was ready for like hurricane
Mm.
sort of thing. And then I'm like, oh, it's not a hurricane, so it's probably fine. So
You're all decked
I look
out
through
and
White Wand. Like,
okay. I guess it is more of a dry cold too. I mean, if you bundle up, you're fine.
yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah,
Ontario's a bit damp out east. I can only imagine.
yes,
Like, I would not
yeah. Oh,
survive.
I've done like Montreal cold. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Okay,
I don't know.
this is
-17 in
nothing for you.
Montreal is way colder than -40 in Calgary.
That's true. I guess, yeah.
Just my opinion.
I think maybe the first time was a bit of a wake up, like punch in the face.
For
And then
sure.
after that, you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. Like, just
Yeah.
walk quicker and you're fine.
You just have to wear your jacket. Like you can't just wear a hoodie.
I was, I had a,
But you
I had
can't
like
do
a,
that
I had to
in
go, I had a windbreaker over top. I mean, it didn't do anything. It had
no.
no insulation, whatever. But
Right.
it's the thought that counted, I
Yeah.
guess.
Trying real hard. Yeah.
My intentions were there, but I guess that's what
Pure.
happens when you live on your own and your mother's not there to tell you to put on a coat.
That's a real thing.
It was good. It was learning experience, if you will. I took my bumps. One thing I think I've asked a lot of people, just more for ideas, if you will. We touched on it at the start. CCAA and U sports are underappreciated at best. I think that's the best way to put it. Not a lot of attention paid to teams, players, coaches until nationals roll around, and even then, it's nowhere near where it should be. SIDs and local media do what they can, but I think nationally, there's a lot more we can do. In your opinion, how can we grow the level of attention on U sports, CCAA, men's and women's, just in general, to get, because the product's fantastic. There's a ton of interesting stories from players, coaches, anybody in an athletic department in general. How do we get the attention to where it should be?
I think it's a general like populace culture thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you look at the US, like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the model that we've been following.
Mm-hmm.
On a Friday, Saturday night, like they're at their games. Like
Mm-hmm.
we've gone down to Montana the last 2 years. I guess I went 2 years ago with Augustana and then
Mm-hmm.
this past year with Mount Royal. And when
Mm-hmm.
you go to those gyms, they are just rocking. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so cool. It could be a Sunday afternoon and everybody is there. And I just think that's a big thing in terms of getting people interested, is like you need bodies at your games. You need
Mm-hmm.
butts in the seats, as
That's
it
true.
is. But I also think there's something to be said about like the young athletes coming out to the games to watch the level that they want to play at. And
Mm-hmm.
to reflect back, I believe that there's too many Canadian kids that want to leave and go to the US. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
But U Sports, like the best teams in U Sports are totally able to compete with like a mid to low Div 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're competing with the NAI schools. Like
Yep.
we're just as good athletically.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to stay at home and you're not paying exorbitant fees.
Yep.
And you're playing in front of your family and your friends. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think those things are undervalued.
Mm-hmm.
But I think slowly there's a change happening,
Yep.
right? I think there's a big positive from the Raptors winning the
Mm-hmm.
NBA championship last
Oh,
year,
for
right? Like
sure.
basketball is big time in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for us, when I was at Augustana, we had a huge local following of individuals that would be at our games. Like we had great packed gyms every night. Now our gym was a little smaller, but it's
Yep.
still it's all about that atmosphere, right?
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
or our senior night this year, we played UFC and we had great numbers in our stands, and it was
Mm-hmm.
super fun to just look out and how many people are there just supporting
Yep.
the graduating athletes. And so I think as more of those things take steps in a positive direction. Like
Mhm.
as long as our product continues to improve,
Mhm.
the public is going to notice and they're going to be there. But
Yeah.
I mean, just think about how far behind we were in terms of broadcasting, right? Like
Yeah.
when I played, you weren't watching the game online. It wasn't a thing. Now
That's
I feel
true.
like that's like dating myself, but like that was only,
It
I
wasn't
don't
that
know,
long
10
ago.
years ago.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't
Not
that long.
no.
So
Yeah,
just to
that's true.
think in this much time, we're now like we have CanWest TV and we
Mhm.
are broadcasting it all online,
Mhm.
and you can see it wherever you are. Like I think that can really grow our fan base, and the
Mhm.
hope is that the interest will rise. I
Mhm.
think like the push to get it on TV, I don't know if that's as big a deal anymore because we have our own streaming service, right?
Yep.
So if people are interested, they have the ability to tune in. But
Yep.
I just think going is so much better than watching it
Yep.
online. It's the atmosphere.
I think once people see it in person,
Yeah.
once get hooked. Like you said, Augustana had a smaller gym, but you had that loyal following that made it
Mm-hmm.
a good atmosphere to be in every time. So I think if people go to a game and see it once, get
Yeah.
hooked, and come back a second time, third time, and it's not expensive either. Like games, I don't think are
No.
more than $5-10 at most for some schools. It's not some schools
Some
even do it for
schools.
free. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Totally
it's.
depends on where, but like
Mhm.
I just think it's a question of what the school will offer, like
Mhm.
especially if you have young kids. Like a lot of schools are letting the kids in for free, and
Yep.
so but if that's something that if you want to be there and you
Mhm.
will reach out,
Mhm.
a lot of schools will let like club teams
Oh,
and
for
high
sure.
school or junior high teams in for free too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, there's a
I think
once you get in and see it, I think that's the biggest thing. And for the athletes, just to change that Division One or bust mindset and
yeah,
be open to Canadian university, college, whatever. There's so many good programs, and academically, they're just as strong as well.
yeah,
There's so many things, and like I don't think they realize like playing in front of your family and friends on senior night in
yeah,
if you're a Toronto kid playing at Ryerson, York, U of T, whatever, versus playing your senior night in down south where maybe your parents are the only ones there that you actually know from back home. Like, that's
yeah.
huge. Like, that would be.
And you get 5 years in Canada, right? Like
Mm-hmm,
I think that's a huge deal too. Like that extra year,
mm-hmm,
we know as coaches that often it takes till year 3 for the
mm-hmm.
athletes to really become a student of the game and understand, and
Yep,
and then you actually get to play 3 years where you get it, and like it's
mm-hmm,
not a waste.
yep,
So
yep. Think, yeah, just watch a game, go out and see one. Like, I regret not watching as many games as I did when I was growing up in London. Western and Fanshawe should have gone to a lot more than I did.
mhm.
Full admission to that. But check out a game, watch it, and get yourself hooked. Like, the product's great. You just got to go see it. And like you said, everything's online now. You can stream, I think, every league except maybe Quebec. I don't know if they have live
Right.
streaming, but there's 7 of your 9 leagues that you can watch online. Like, it's right there at your fingertips. You just have to
Mhm.
want it, I guess, and see it once and get hooked and come back again.
Yeah. And then I think the cool thing is for younger athletes, like if they get to interact with the players, like
Mm-hmm.
they, you have a favorite player and that's really
Yeah.
cool. And
It's a big
so,
thing. That's a real big thing. Like, you look up to those athletes, and it's good for the student athletes too, because like it makes them feel good and like they want to give back to the community. Like, they're
mhm,
volunteering and whatnot in the community during the season. So to see those kids come back or the parents come back and watch them, it builds that relationship with the community, and it just brings in more people, and it feels good to everybody all around.
mhm, totally.
2 questions that came in, or 2 better ones that came in on social media. One's from someone on your team. Not going to say who.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Um, what are your favorite moment or moments from your first year with the Cougars?
Oh man, so many. I think the funny thing about coaching is that every year is a new experience, regardless of whether you've changed
Mm-hmm,
teams or not.
mm-hmm,
I think there was a point in the first semester where
mm-hmm,
we were practicing, and I think we were playing like it was half full, a drill we always do at the end of practice, and we were playing zone, and our talk was just like phenomenal, and the gym was just vibing, and it was like this crazy thing. And like in our debrief after, one of the athletes was like, that felt good. And I was like, that's what it should feel like. That's what our practice is. And I think that was like a huge shift for us, where it was like everybody became an energy giver and we had no energy takers. And I think that was a really big moment of buy-in for us as a staff, where we were like, okay, they're getting it. Like, this is really cool. This is a really good feeling.
Yeah.
So that would be a big one for me. I think the close games, like the close wins, always stand out, and we only had one that wasn't.
Yeah.
So, but I'm even proud of like the games where, you know, there was a shift in the score from one game to the next. Like I remember we played Fraser and just got thumped on the Friday, and Saturday we changed something on and how we were going to defend, and we showed up on the Saturday, and it was a way better game. Like the girls, just like the vibe was there, they were feeling it, and they were understanding and buying into what we wanted. And I think we lost by like 5-7, not sure, but just the change in the understanding of like, oh, okay, we're all going to do this together, and like it's going to be something that we try the strategy, and it totally worked. But I think those things are your typical basketball coach things, but like for me, I'm big on connection. So I love the camping trip. I love all the away trips where we're like, I don't know, we went to Thompson Rivers and got stuck in a snowstorm coming back from bowling.
Oh, good.
And in my minivan with no winter tires, it was just like, I had like 6 kids in the back, and everyone's like, okay, what's going on? We're like, we're stuck on a mountain. So,
oh boy. See, again, that's why you don't go on mountains.
Obviously.
That's why you don't go on mountains. I'm just saying it now.
Just don't drive on them.
Don't walk on them. Don't drive on them. Just stay on the ground.
So we were stuck for like probably like 45 minutes, but the snowplow eventually came by and put down some gravel, and I just like floored it through the gravel. But like stuff like that, I think those are moments where I'm like, okay, that's an adventure. Like that's a real insane time.
Yeah.
You know, you can't make that stuff up. So
those are the stories that most don't hear about that just make it that much better. Like you're stuck in a minivan with no snow tires, with a third of your team in the back, and you can't go anywhere.
They were awesome about it too. Like we're like, okay, we're just gonna turn up the music and like whatever, we'll sort it out.
You can't do anything else, so you might as well make the best of it and have some sing-alongs or do what you got to do just to keep it light. But I think that's a big like testament to the culture that you guys built too. And like the talk I had with Ken last season on this, and like some of the players like on social media and whatnot, I think it's just a huge testament to the culture that you guys have built in year one. And like everybody just, like you said, bought in, came together, and moments like those really show that everybody did buy in and you have fun along the way.
Yeah. I'm a big fun person. Like I need to have fun. If I'm not having fun, then it's not really worth it for me. So
no, you gotta have fun. You gotta make jokes. You gotta laugh. You gotta just make it light. Because if you're serious all the time, no one's gonna listen to you after a while. They're just gonna drown you out, and it's the same thing every day.
Yeah.
I think you saw your things last year, like different practice outfits, even like
wacky Wednesday.
Wacky Wednesdays. It's just things like that, right? It keeps it light, and it's always a good chuckle to scroll on social media and you see what Wednesday's theme is, and
they're so great.
It's fun. Yeah. It's fun for me on the outside just to look and see. It's funny.
Yeah, I think that's been a big emphasis for us is like with the minute to win it and the and the wacky. Like I'll like give credit. Like wacky is 100% we stole from U of A because I was there, and it was a huge hit for us when we were there. And so I think that like those things are what keeps it fresh. Like there's something about January, February where it gets a little monotonous, and everybody who's been there and done it understands that. And so I think that's part of like building grit and understanding is that you still got to make it something that you want to be there for and that you want to show up and work your butt off for.
Last one that came in, what can people expect from the Cougars in 2021?
Oh, well, what can we expect from 2021?
That's true. I don't know. That's true. I guess like we don't know what the season's going to look like. You guys have your format now, but I guess hopeful if it goes through with a season. What can people expect from you guys in a perfect, we have a season, 2020-21 season?
Totally. I would say I'm just excited for another year of growth with this group. And I think from what I've seen, it takes at least 2 years for like concepts and big picture items to kind of come to the surface and actually be something that your group is doing consistently. And so I'm excited for consistency. I don't know, like wins and losses show up when you're putting in the work and when you're buying in. And I think our buy-in was really great this year, but I'm hopeful that the buy-in will continue to grow and our culture will continue to blossom. And a lot of that is on the athletes, right? Like a lot of that is their decisions and what they're doing right now. And we have great compliance in terms of like our summer workouts and our we're doing video breakdown sessions right now. And so those things have been phenomenal. And so what can you expect? I don't know, another exciting season of growth. Like we had so many close games last year. And I think like the hope is that we win a few more of those and that we make a few other games like a lot closer. And so that's kind of where our mindset is at right now.
The players have that experience of being in those close games where they were on the wrong side of it. And now they find themselves in that spot again this year. They can draw on that. They know what it felt like to come out of the wrong side and hopefully dig into that next level that they didn't know they had and kind of push yourselves to.
I mean, I can only draw on past experience, but my first year at Augustana, we had 4 overtime games. We lost a lot of games by 10 points or less. And then the next year, we had a much better season and ended up finishing 4th in the ACAC. So I'm hopeful that, I don't know that our shift will be that big, but
you never know.
I'm hopeful that it can be in the same direction.
Oh, for sure. And you can't teach experience. Now the girls have another year under their belts and hopefully they pick it up and just keep building from where you were this year and keep that forward progression going. And like you said, continue the growth and hope and see what happens. Well, Robyn, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. I know we've been working on it for a little bit to get it on the air, so really appreciate you taking time to do this. Anytime you want to come on and shed some more light on what you guys are building at Mount Royal, by all means, happy to have you on.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time too, Tyler.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day. I guess it's still early, so you've got the whole day still ahead of you to
so much time.
Do what you need to do. And again, really appreciate the time.
Me as well.